That's the nicest intro ever. Thank you, Diane. Thank you. Okay, thank you all for coming. I will try my best to make this as specific as possible because I know a lot of people submitted questions beforehand, so happy to help with Q&A and all of that stuff as well. Just by show of hands, who's looking for a job at the moment? Okay, so about half of people. Okay, maybe 75%. Okay, well, I'll try and give some advice about CVs, about LinkedIn, about interviews, about offers, and everything in between. I appreciate that jobs in the UK, the market, it's probably quite different to other countries. I'm from the UK, was raised here, but I lived in New Zealand for a couple of years, and then came back. And when I was there, it was a complete culture shock in terms of how the market operated, even though they're very similar countries. So I appreciate it might be quite different to a lot of people here. Who's from Ukraine? Is it everybody? Or okay, yeah, not me. I should put my hand down. Okay. Well, obviously, tough situation, but hopefully we can help give you some advice to help land you your next position. Okay. So tiny bit about me. So my name's Alfie. As Diana mentioned, I own a recruitment company called Alpha. We specialise just in software engineers and hiring them for different startups and big market-leading tech companies across London and the UK, exclusively in the UK. But the advice is not just for software developers. The advice is applicable to all industries, really, not just tech. I know there's some people that work in marketing and ops and finance and sales, so hopefully some recommendations today will be useful for all areas, really. Reason for the cameras is I also host a podcast where I interview different tech leaders on career advice, on how to build teams, on how to what the future is of AI and blockchain, on all these exciting areas. I think Arsen has actually been on the podcast before, so if you want to see his lovely face on the show, then there'll be a link at the end of this to watch all the episodes. And there's lots of information for free on there as well, which will help you on your job searches also. On top of that, I edit a magazine called Coder, which offers a written version of that advice, so that's worth checking out for mostly for tech people in the audience. And that's basically it, that's me. Okay. So this is all about job searching, obviously. Pretty simple tips and advice today, but the sort of things that we often forget about, and I often find if you're not doing some of these things and you're struggling to get a position, then it might be worth just looking at it from their first principles perspective and going, maybe that's the reason why. Maybe there's some ideas, some insights, some recommendations that we can try to help you out. If you have already landed a position, then this might not be useful for you. But in the future, who knows? We're always looking for new jobs, right? Cool. All right. Next slide. Okay. CVs. All right. Who has been sending out CVs for jobs? Yep. And me, not my own CV, but hundreds of candidate CVs every single day. All right, some basic CV tips, tricks, recommendations. How long do you think somebody looks at a CV for, on average? Just shout out random numbers.
7 seconds.
Okay. 7 seconds, yes. That's what people say. Okay, so you nailed it. I'll pay you later. That's perfect. Okay. If a CV is 7 seconds, that kind of tells you that it probably needs to be pretty concise. So the point of a CV is to get an interview, in my opinion. So a CV is a story, it's a sales pitch about why a hiring manager, why a company should go, this looks cool, let's have a chat. Okay? The CV is not some autobiography, essay, 15-page document, which I often find is what most people think it is. We receive hundreds of CVs every single day, and I would say 60–70% of them are like 5 to 10 pages long, okay? Which is far too long. So I guess the first thing I would say might be pretty obvious, but if your CV is more than like 2 or 3 pages, you need to cut that down like massively. So how do you do that without diluting the quality and without making it really, really basic? So first thing I would say is shorten old jobs. Like nobody cares what you were doing 10 years ago. Like it's just not relevant anymore. So I would literally just put like the company, the job title, the dates, the location, and then maybe like 1 or 2 sentences about like what you were doing. And I'll talk in a little bit about what those sentences should be and some advice around that. You don't need to list out all of the responsibilities of things that you were doing 10, 15 years ago. Like, nobody cares. Even 5 years ago, to be honest, like, the longer it was, the shorter it should be. So very quickly, you can turn a page about a job 7 years ago into a third of a page if you just be smart about it. Okay? So current stuff is relevant, old stuff, get rid of it. All right. What else? Is anyone using a picture of themselves on their CV? No. Okay. You're good. You've been trained. Okay. Yeah. Don't do that. A lot of people that come to the country, especially from Asia, they love to put a nice, lovely picture of themselves on the front of their CV. And it doesn't matter what you look like when you're applying for a job, right? It's certainly during the CV phase. If you go for an interview and maybe you're good looking, then maybe that will help a little bit. But not necessarily required for the CV. So. Certainly put that on your LinkedIn, and we'll talk in a little bit about how to make that professional and how to make that look really good. I've seen some terrible LinkedIn pictures of people drunk in a bar, like, it's that's not going to get you a job. That's going to hurt you rather than help you. A lot of people like to list their references at the bottom of their CV. You don't need to. You're just taking up room. Just put like references on request, or better yet, just don't put that at all. Like, if somebody's going to read your CV for 7 seconds before making a yes or no decision, what you need to think about is this adding value to those 7 seconds? Is it getting them to look at it and go, amazing, I want to interview this person? Reading references on request, or listing out 5 references, or listing out what your parents do, or saying that you're a non-smoker, or saying that you like to go swimming, it's not getting them interested in that specific problem you're not providing a solution to the problem. And they've got a problem. They need somebody to fill that position. Okay, and we'll talk about how to customize that CV in a second, okay? All right. A few basics apart from shorting it. So if you apply those advice, you can get it from like 5 pages to 2 pages. Awesome. On top of that, I would always recommend putting a UK mobile number at the top. Is anyone using like a Ukrainian number? No, okay, good. It's terrible, but if a recruiter gets like 100 CVs for a job, if they're going through the CVs really, really quickly, and if they see a number on there which is not a UK number, they're just going to assume that you're based overseas. And most of the time, they want somebody local, an hour away from the office, somebody that doesn't need to fly over for an interview. So if you don't have a UK number, they will just not call you most of the time. So if you've got a Ukrainian number, maybe like for WhatsApp, and then like a UK number, just get rid of the overseas number, just put the UK number, make a new WhatsApp, whatever. Okay. Email addresses, this is like a really obvious one, but I see so many emails, and it's like, something crazy from their university days or something. Just make like a new professional Gmail, or better yet, make a personal website. If you have an email like, mine is Alfie at welovealpha.com. It's like, oh, this person's switched on. They can build their own personal portfolio, their brand. Even if it's just like your first name at, and then like register a website with your surname, or like a variation of that. It's like £10 a year or something to do it on Squarespace or Wix, or you guys are in tech, you probably know better domains than I do, but to make like a simple landing page where people can download your CV, a link to your LinkedIn, to any other content that you're doing, that is like, it sets you apart so much from just like a Gmail. It just makes you look like you've got a personal brand, like you care about your search, and that you're invested in the process. So a professional email will definitely help. One thing that drives me absolutely crazy is that people that use these free like CV formatting tools. Has anyone been on like websites where you can type in your details and it will make you like a professional CV? It's like fancy, it's got logos on, it's got graphics. Those are great if you're applying to a company with 5 people and the CEO is receiving the CV, because those companies don't have an established recruitment system and process in place with software. But if you're applying to any recruitment company, or any company with more than like 50 or 100 people, then they're going to have like some kind of software in place, and kind of like, we call it an ATS, like an applicant tracking system, okay? And what that does is it takes a CV and it does like keyword matching. So if you're like a Java developer, it will try and find the word Java on your CV. Recruiters will change your CV if it's a PDF to a Word. They'll add like a cover sheet on there with their comments, their thoughts, their impressions of you. They'll then change it back to a PDF. And if you've got this like CV, which the UI looks amazing, it looks like something that Pablo Picasso has created. It's got charts, it's got graphs, it's got nice colours. Once that's been put through all of the tools, because it's like a JPEG or like a PDF, it's not going to pick up the keywords, so it won't put you to the top of the list when people are reviewing the CVs. And with recruiters, it will just turn it into like this weird mess where it will become like something unreadable, where all the words will move around, the fonts will change. That's like $1 billion business idea, somebody that can figure out a way of changing like a PDF fancy CV into like a Word document one. But my biggest advice when formatting a CV would honestly be just to do like a standard Word document. Just use like Arial fonts, like size, 10, 12, whatever the normal one is, like black. No like bright red fonts or anything neon green or anything crazy. If you're a designer, like a graphic designer, then I would recommend having a portfolio showing those kinds of projects, or like a front-end developer. But that's separate to a CV. That's like a link on a CV. You know, that's on your personal website. That's not on the resume itself. Okay. All right. Free CV spell checking tool. Like, such a basic one, but it blows me away how many people spell the word software developer wrong, or spell London with like 2 O's, or whatever. If English isn't your first language, that's fine, and it's completely fine to make spelling mistakes, but it's not okay to not do a spell check. Because if it's going out there and that's what people are getting of you as your first impression, and there's tons of spelling mistakes on it, then most hiring managers are going to not want to be interested in booking in an interview, because it's just like red flags right away before they've even... And it's not a red flag about the language, it's a red flag that you haven't taken the attention to detail. So every CV, every cover letter, every email going out, applying for a role, just do a quick, free CV spell check, press one button. Like Grammarly is a great Chrome extension to use. There's tons of others. But yeah, that's definitely something I'd recommend. One of the biggest things about the contents, so when you list a job, when you list your position, when you list the dates, most people underneath that, they list like the role and responsibility. Okay, like what they did. Like if you're a software developer, I was writing code. The thing is, if you're an engineering manager or a tech leader reading that, you know that's what a software developer does. So in the 7 seconds that you've got to really impress somebody, you're not going to be impressing them. You're going to be just telling them what a software developer does, okay? What you need to do is focus on achievements over responsibilities, all right? Using numbers is really, really good, like metrics. Like if you, and talking about what you did, not what we did, not what the team did. They're not looking to hire your team from your old company, they're looking to hire you. Okay, so what did you as an individual contribute, and what tangible metrics did it achieve? If you write as your opening bullet point on your most recent job, I was a software developer and I was writing code for this company, okay? That's like bland, like no one's interested in that. Like a much better way of framing that would be, I was a senior engineer specializing in the fintech industry, using React and JavaScript and Node and TypeScript, and we developed this cutting-edge trading software which increased revenue by 85% and allowed the company to land 3 more projects worth 3.2 million, and that led to me being promoted to a principal engineer, and then that led to being able to hire 3 more people who I was involved in training and developing and coaching, who then went on to get their own promotions as well. I mean, that's like a way better way of reading that. Like the same point, but just reframed in a different way. Okay, so bullet points should equal bragging points. Humble brags, nobody likes, you're not Donald Trump when you're writing it, right? You're not trying to like tell everybody how you're the greatest, but certainly write it from the perspective of you've got 5-10 seconds. This is your, have you heard of elevator pitch? Elevator pitches? Yeah, so you're in an elevator with somebody and you've got until it reaches the bottom to impress them, to tell them your story. And that's what a CV is. It's a story. It's not a list of you reading out your role and responsibilities. You know, it's you telling the story about why you're an amazing person, why you're a great professional in your field, and why they should interview you for the job. Okay, cool. All right, another great thing that you can do on your CV to really set you apart from the masses that apply is personal projects. Okay, so by personal projects, if you're working in tech, an obvious one is like your own side hustles, your own apps that you've developed, your own projects. People that are pretty good at what they do, they don't just do it for work. They do it as a passion, they do it for fun, they do it as a hobby. So if you're on the side, as outside of your working hours, if you're developing this cool app which does this sort of nice thing in AI or Web3 or whatever it is, if you mention that, it shows that you're willing to go the extra mile because you're doing something outside of work. And it blows me away about how many people that have these great little projects on the side and they don't even talk about them. And then hiring managers reading it and it's like, yeah, so what? They were a software developer at this company, but why are they different? What makes them special? Okay. Other personal projects that you can write and other cool things to include there would be like blogs. It's so easy nowadays just to create like a Substack or write on LinkedIn natively on their blogging platform. And if you're writing about your profession, what you like about it, what you're learning, you don't even have to be focused on creating content. You can just document the journey. So if you're applying for jobs, you could write a weekly little blog about, hey, I've applied for these jobs this week. Here's what I learned. Here's what I did well in the interviews. Here's what I could have improved on. And if a hiring manager sees that you're building content around your personal brand, it just separates you so much from everybody else that isn't doing that. Because 99% of people are not doing that. But it's like a great extra hook to talk about. Because if you're going for a job, and if you can write custom content about that industry or that field, if you're applying for a job at like a health tech company, and if you go, all right, great, I've got an interview, let's write a blog about the future of health tech. And you write, you do some research, you look into, wearables, you look into, fitness products and supplements and trackables and all of that stuff, and you write a blog about it. You can use ChatGPT if you're lazy like me to help. But if you're doing that and then going, hey, here's my CV, really looking forward to the interview. By the way, I just wrote a blog on health tech, which I think you'll find really interesting. Here's a link to it. They're going to whoa, this person, they're way different to everybody else that's applied. So that's a really simple thing that you can do. Yes, it takes time, but do you care about the job search? I mean, if you do, then it's something that you should prioritize, right? Probably the best thing that you can do in terms of content is video, in my opinion. I appreciate that not everybody wants to jump in front of a camera, and my biggest advice would just be to start doing it, because then it becomes easier the second or the third time that you've done it. But if you could, to go along with that blog, make a little video, if you just talking about it, you can use free tools like Canva.com, where you can upload the slides, click a little button, your face will appear in the webcam in the corner of the screen, and then that will allow you to talk it through. If they're reading the blog, that's one thing, but if they're watching you read it and go through the slides, it's just 10 times better. And if you're producing content like this every single week and just adding it onto your CV, it helps build it out to change you from just one other person applying to a job to the horrible term of a thought leader in your industry, right? And it's a cringe term, but if you are trying to separate you from all the other people that are applying, that's the single best thing that you can do, in my opinion. All right. Last thing I would say about CVs is really, really important that you're customizing every application for every job. In the past, people used to do cover letters, and they're a bit outdated. I wouldn't necessarily be writing a cover letter anymore. It seems like a little bit of a 90s thing. Instead, I would just take your CV and customize it for the job. So what I mean by that is, if you see a job description, or if you see a job advert to begin with, always try and get a job description. So the best way to do that is, if you're dealing with a recruiter for the job, just ask them, hey, have you got a JD? Have you got a job spec? Then they'll send it through to you if you ask politely, and that will give you a lot more details. A job ad is this, a JD is this, right? If you can't find one on the advert, just do some Googling. If you search the company, search the job title name, there's a good chance that they've got that JD on their website. It might not be on Indeed, it might not be on LinkedIn, but it might be on their website. So the more data that you can get, the better, right? So before you apply to that job, you're going to look at the job ad, look at the job description, and you're going to try and customize your CV to that specific role. Honestly, it's better to apply for 5 roles in a day than it is to apply for 50 roles in a day, because you only need like one person to say yes to an interview. Like, they're going to read your CV, like it's going to get read, and they're going to say yes or no. So, you know, if you can get 5 interviews by sending 5 CVs, that's better than getting 1 interview by sending 50 CVs, which is like soul crushing probably. It must feel awful to be in that situation, but you don't need to be in that situation. So by customizing it, what I mean is, look at the top of the job ad, look at the top of the job description. What are the most important things they're looking for? If they are looking for somebody with 5 years React experience, and that's their opening line, then if you have more than 5 years React experience, your opening line on your CV summary should be, "Hi, I'm Alfie. I have more than 5 years React experience," because they're going to be reading your CV through the mind of the advert that they wrote themselves. And if they're seeing what they were looking for, they're going to be more likely to say yes. If you've got a generic CV, you're sending it out to everybody, then it's probably not going to be showing them how you can solve their problem. You know, if they are in the insurance technology sector, and 3 years ago you worked in the insurance domain, then perfect. Your opening summary should be, "Hey, I've previously worked in the insurance sector at company X. It was honestly the best position in my entire career. I really enjoyed working there. Here's why I enjoyed it, and here's why I think I could add value to." Put their company name on your CV. If they're reading your CV and it's got their company name on it, they're going to be like, "Whoa, this person's taking the time." And if they're willing to take the time on their application with me, then I should be willing to take my time to speak with them, all right? So customize it via the skills needed, the technologies. Customize it via the sector, the industry. Even customize it using their name. If they have got their name on the job ad at the bottom, you know, "Hey, this is, you know, Joe Bloggs is the recruitment manager for this position." Or on LinkedIn, often it will tell you who the person is, okay? If you can start your CV by going, "Hey, Alfie, thanks for reading my CV." They're like, and then put one of those little hand emojis, like the waving one. They're cool. They'll be like, "Wow, this person instantly, my 7-second, you know, yes or no filter is going to be like, in 1 second, oh yeah, I should keep reading. It's got my name on it." Like, how often do you see that? Okay, so customize the CV. Okay, so let's just go over that very briefly again. So CV length, you know, 2-3 pages. They're going to read it for 7 seconds on average. Shorten the old jobs, you know, get rid of the back end and make it simple. You know, focus on what you're currently doing and how you can add value. Take away the picture. Take away any like references on request. If they want them, they will ask for them, believe me. UK phone number only. Professional email. Simple Word doc, no fancy formatting. Free CV spell check tool. Bullet points, bragging points. Personal projects, customized to how you can add value to them, into their industry, their domain. You know, blogs, videos, pictures, content, LinkedIn, Substack, whatever. Customize each application based on their job ad, their job spec, and don't just limit yourself to one application place. Don't just apply for jobs on Indeed. For those making notes, and for those not, we'll send the recording of this. Some places where you can go: Indeed, LinkedIn, CW Jobs, Total Jobs, Reed, eFinancial Careers, Monster, JobSite, CV Library, Alpha, obviously. Those are like probably the most popular. Cord is good for developers. Otter is pretty good. Those are like the most popular platforms. And I find that oftentimes people arrive in the UK and they're like, "Hey, I'll go on LinkedIn." And then that's great, but you're applying for like the jobs on the market in LinkedIn are here. Like, this is the market, right? And then LinkedIn is this. So it's the biggest, but it's still a segment of it. Okay. Right, that's CVs. We'll go into LinkedIn. Is any of that helpful with CVs? Yeah? Is there anything in there which people are not doing at the moment? Okay, yeah.
So I tend to go with kind of like
traditional way of writing the CV in third person,
Okay.
my professional statement, not like, hi, I'm this and that.
Yeah.
It's more like I'm professional with this kind of background. It seems to me that saying something like, hey, Alfie, thank you for reading my CV,
Sure.
comes across as really colloquial.
Okay.
Am I just behind the market, basically?
I guess it just, I don't think it's as big as a thing as people would say, really. I think often it maybe depends on the type of company that you're applying for. If you're applying for a startup, if you're applying for an agency, somewhere a little bit more fun and quirky, I think first person would work really well. If you're applying for like a bank or like some government agency, maybe third person, a bit more professional, maybe that's a little bit better. Probably no emojis if you're in public sector or something. That's probably a smart thing to do. I think it's a good point. I think it just depends. Once again, customize it. Like don't be afraid to spend an hour writing a CV for an application. Because in a minute we're going to talk about how not just to apply once, but how to, in a very sneaky but tactical way, apply from many different angles. Okay. Yeah.
And you were also mentioning about customizing every CV to each position.
Yeah.
So my basic question is, do you somehow, talking about your candidates and your expertise,
Yeah.
do you somehow check in if they're using any AI tools? Just because there's like resume boarded, like a lot of different instruments to actually automate customizing
Sure.
your CV to each position. And for example, I know Monza have this policy that they are like rejecting every CV that was done with this. Talking about your experience, do we need to be aware of this or still do we?
Well, I think a lot of companies would like to tell you that they, from like a marketing perspective, hey, if anybody applies using GPT or Bard, it's an instant no. In reality, a busy recruitment manager is not checking every CV against those AI tools. That's just like a cool thing that they say to sound smart. That's not the truth. We just don't have that much time, believe me. And the recruitment software, I mean, as of me saying this in 2023, it just hasn't caught up to automatically check yet. It probably will in the next couple of months, but it's just at this point you can use those tools, but like use them like as your co-pilot, not as your replacement. Like I have seen a lot of CVs where at the bottom of the CV, like under the roles and responsibilities, it says like as a large language model. I cannot, and so it's taken from ChatGPT. They've literally just copied and pasted. Like what the, like that is not like, that's you presenting yourself. Like if I see that, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna. No, you're obviously not taking the time to care about this, are you? So I'd say use them for fleshing out content. I use them all the time for content, for creating variations of things. So if I've got a clip like a YouTube title or a blog post like for a summary, I'll put it in there and I'll go, hey, give me 10 variations of this. Make it more professional, make it more quirky, make it more fun. So if you're applying for a bank, you could take those 5 bullet points and put them in there and go, hey, make this a little bit more professional and then. So I would use AI tools to benefit you, but I just wouldn't use it to replace you, because trusting tech completely is just like even if you've got a self-driving car, I put my hands on the wheel, I just ready, just in case it takes off into the ocean. You can't just trust it completely, not yet anyway. Cool. We'll do more questions at the end, but is there anything on CVs still?
Yeah, I have a follow-up basically to my question. So with that professional summary or profile, how long would you say it should be? If it's effectively replacing a cover letter.
Yeah. Well, anyone use Twitter? Yeah. So with Twitter, you get, I think it's like now 260 characters or something, but back in the old days, it was like 140 characters or something. I would recommend having like a one or two sentence Twitter summary at the top of your CV. So in 1 or 2 sentences, they know who you are and what you do. So if you are applying for a position of, and I keep using developer examples, that's just what we recruit for, but if you're applying for a position as a senior Angular position at a media company, okay, I would make the and if this is relevant to you, I would make the summary. Hey, I'm Alfie. I've got 7 years experience in senior and lead software engineering positions, specializing in technologies like Angular, but in similar ones, JavaScript, TypeScript, React, Node. and I've previously worked at media organisations like BBC, ITV. If you have worked at them, you know, that in like 1-2 sentences, they're like, oh, amazing, you know, this person ticks all the boxes, right? Obviously, you cannot do that. You can't lie. You can't just make up companies. I mean, it's, you know, it has to be honest and reflective of the position. But there's probably some stuff that you can take and reflect back to them, you know. So I would keep the summary short at the top, but I would customize the entire CV to mirror that. So if, you know, a really simple one would be if you then worked at a media company, you know, 2 companies ago. First bullet point could be, you know, 7 years in this domain, so it could add a lot of value to, you know, X, and then put their company name. And then they're like, oh my God, this person has, you know, they've literally written this for me. I feel so special right now. Like, thank you, you know. Which, you know, maybe it's just me that feels that way. But, you know, when you've like looked at hundreds of thousands of CVs over the past decade, like if you can see somebody that's taken the time, even if it's just like half an hour, it's so refreshing, right? Cool. Yeah, CVs?
Alfie, would it be possible at the end to give us a few good CVs examples from your point of view? Because when you're referring to a short summary at the top, replacing basically the cover letter, the structure seemed to be a little bit confusing to me, for instance.
Okay.
In my understanding, it was like a facts about basically your biography in a professional way. But when it's a summary on top,
well, summary, when I say on top, I just mean like, so you put your name, all right? You put your, and I put your name, this is a little small tip, but I wouldn't put it in block capitals, because when it gets uploaded to recruitment software, it automatically pulls that and uploads it in the way that it was typed onto the applicant tracking system. And then when it's in bold capitals, there's been a lot of research done in terms of readability, where if something's listed with the proper way, with, you know, capital and then underscore, it just reads better to their eyes. It's not like you're shouting at them, like, hey, my name's Alfie, you know, it's like, it's Alfie, you know, just a small thing. But I put the name, I put your location, I definitely put, like, the city. So if you're applying for a job in London, I'd list London. If you're applying for a job in, like, Birmingham, but you're in London, I'd just change it to, like, United Kingdom, perhaps. Or London, and then brackets, happy to relocate to Birmingham, because if you know, if they're in Scotland and you're in Middlesbrough, they might just reject it instantly. So, and then I put your UK phone number, your professional email, link to your own platform, and then I put the summary underneath that.
The summary, of course, then the summary, and then basically the facts of your professional.
Yeah, the summary, and then the work experience, you know. So yeah, I just put it that way. I don't have any like examples ready, but if you email me, I can give you the email. Then I can certainly send you or anyone an example if you like. Cool. I'll have to take off their name, obviously. I can't show you that Arsen's looking for work, but nah, kidding. Cool. All right. Any on CVs? Anything else? No. All right. We'll come back at the end. So if there's anything that people think of, awesome. All right. Next slide. All right. LinkedIn. Okay. Has everyone got a LinkedIn? Yeah. Okay. A few hands didn't go up. Okay. If you don't have a LinkedIn, definitely build a LinkedIn page. It's like the online equivalent of your CV. But it's not your CV. Okay, that's like a really important distinction to make. So a LinkedIn is basically a very summarized version of your CV. I'll give you a couple of like really basic profile tips, which I'd say 99% of people don't do all of these. But if you do, it's instantly going to separate you. And then we'll talk about how to use it in terms of messaging, in terms of outreach, in terms of how to get the right people on the phone, and how to use it as a tool to book interviews. Okay? All right, so we talked about a CV being like 2 pages. Your LinkedIn should not just be a copy and paste of all your CV achievements. My recommendation would be, you got your picture, you got your tagline, you get a summary, which is important to fill out because for keyword purposes, if people search for stuff on LinkedIn, it pulls from your summary as the primary place. And featured, you can like feature content, like link to your personal website or to blogs or to videos that you've made, or even your CV. You can actually list that on your LinkedIn. People can download it, which is great. So I'd have some stuff in your featured section. And then in terms of the jobs, I'd just like list the companies, and I'd probably put like 2-3 sentences about each position. So look at your bullet points in your CV. What are like the top like 1 or 2 things, and then just put that on your LinkedIn. Because if they're going to read your LinkedIn for this amount of time, and then that will lead to them getting your CV and getting this, and then the interview, and the job, and then you crush it, and then everything's great. A good analogy or metaphor or whatever for that would be there was a survey done in the States a couple of years ago where they said to people, hey, do you mind if we put this like really tiny sign in your garden, like supporting this political candidate? It's like, and if they're not interested in that party, they'll say no, obviously. But if it's like, yeah, we support Biden or Trump or whatever, hey, yeah, you can put a little sign in the corner of our garden, right? Next week they come back and they're like, hey, do you mind if we like move it a little bit closer to the middle and like make it a little bit bigger? And they're like, yeah, you can do that. It's already there. Why not? And then like within a few weeks, they'll look like a huge like MAGA flag outside their window or something, right? If you ask for that like right away, it's not going to happen. But it's like you get your foot in the door, and that's what the LinkedIn is. Like boom, you got like interest. All right, let me see the CV. Okay, let me do the interview. So like the LinkedIn is like the shortened CV, which really impresses them and inspires them to read the CV. Okay. So some more basic things that you can do. Has everybody enabled the green banner on your picture? Do you know what I mean by that? Yeah, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go into your settings somewhere and click Open to Opportunities, and then your picture will have this like bright green flag on it. And then recruiters, when they're searching, most of the time, LinkedIn is really expensive to use for recruiters. We have to pay for every message that we send to people that isn't connected with us. But we're much less likely to send a message to somebody if they don't have that on there, because they might not be looking for jobs, and then we've like spent money and not got anything back, right? But if most recruiters, when they're looking to hire a position, they will click Open to Opportunities candidates, and it will just bring those ones up to begin with. So if you do that, you're getting to the front of the pile. So add the green flag if you haven't already. You'll see a purple one as well, which is for hiring, and that's really useful, so you know who to message because they're hiring. Professional profile picture, I talked about it a second ago. Seems like an obvious one. Firstly, just make sure that you've got a profile picture. Like 50% of profiles don't. And there's been like loads of data done, like you're a lot less likely to get a response if you don't have a picture. Also, make sure the picture can be seen by anybody. I think by default, it can only be seen by your first and second line connections. Make sure that you go into the settings and make sure that third line people can see it as well. So strangers who are going on your profile, that sounds weird, but people that haven't spoken to you before, but they're not connected with anybody that you're connected with, they can still see your lovely smile on your LinkedIn. And then just make sure it's like a headshot, so like, you're not in a bar, you're not with your friend, like, hey, what's up, It's not you from like 10 years ago, like, so many people do that. And it's just like bright lighting, I'm not giving you like photography tips here, but you just like take a nice selfie, okay, like smile, like basic stuff. I don't think I'm smiling in mine, so I probably shouldn't say that, but okay. Key technologies in tagline, or just key skills if you're not in tech, like, you know what I mean by a tagline, right? Like the little summary at the top? Yep. So don't just put software developer. Put software developer and then one of those like fancy lines, whatever you call them, or like the little dashes, whatever they are, and then put like the technologies, like the software developer, C#, .NET, Vue.js, whatever. Or if you work in marketing, marketing, and then what would marketing tools be like? Figma, Sketch, Adobe, that's more like graphic design, but Hootsuite, MailChimp, like put the technologies in the tagline, so when people are searching and when they're going through the pages of all the people, they're like, oh, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. Oh, there's X, Y, and Z, and they've got a lovely smiley face. Let me have a look at that, So like a basic thing, but I'd say the majority of profiles do not list like you get, this many words in your tagline. Most people use this. And then they like leave it there. Just like use what they give you. Like there's a reason they give you that. Okay. You can also make it like kind of fun and quirky in that tagline. I find that it works really well if you put like dad, husband, you know, ninja, you know, whatever you're trying to do to be different and quirky. That's really cool. What else? What else? Okay, custom URL. This is like a small thing, but it does make a big difference on your CV. When you create a LinkedIn page by default, it will be like LinkedIn dash your name dash, or actually it will just be like LinkedIn dash and then like a bunch of random letters and numbers, and it's like this long. I remember once I was at a conference and somebody handed me a business card, and like the entire back of the business card was like this like super long URL. Like for me to sit down and type that into a keyboard, it would have like taken me forever. If you go into your settings, you can make it something custom, and you can make it like, you know, linkedin.com/your name. If you just put that on your CV, or if you go into networking events and put it on a business card and handing it out, I know they're pretty old school, but they do work. Then that is a big like step up from the jaggled mess of mayhem. Okay, link to your personal projects. We talked about this on the CV, but you get the featured section on your LinkedIn. So like you can, you know, link to the top, you know, 2 or 3 things that you've done. And then also like in terms of posting on the platform, if you're building out your connections, and I'd recommend doing this on each Monday. So when you you know, when you're applying for your jobs, you know, working out who the decision makers are at that company. So if you're applying for a graphic designer job, and you go into LinkedIn, you type in the company, you click onto people, you go to locations, you click on London, or I'll probably do UK because people work remotely nowadays. You can find the head of design, you can find the lead designers, you can find the head of HR, the head of recruitment. And then if you connect with those people, and if you're doing that, it refreshes at the end of every Sunday. So every Monday, like first thing I do religiously is just, I actually have somebody else doing this for me now, but they go through and they connect with who I'm trying to target that week. Because then if you connect with them, you can message them for free. You don't need their email, you can ping them a little direct message. And a lot of people just have notifications on their phone for everything, they just don't turn them off. So you literally can reach the person who is hiring for that position. You can vibrate next to, you know, on their leg, and they'll get a notification about you and your CV, right? So an amazing thing to do. And if you're posting content on the platform, which makes you stand out from all the other people, and they go on your profile and they see that, it shows that you're switched on, it shows that you're smart, and oftentimes they don't even need to see your CV, they'll just want to speak to you. Cool. Yes?
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
When you connect or send this connection request,
yeah.
do you usually include a note in there or you don't?
Yeah, I would. I mean, you know, a couple of years ago, the note didn't do anything. When people would go to accept, they would see the note, then accept, and then it would just vanish. It has changed recently, so if you accept the connection, they will then receive your note as a message. I don't think you can attach a CV with that. You could put it on like a Google Drive, use like tiny URL to like create like a shortened version of that, and then put that into the message and go like, hey, just wanted to see if we can have a chat about this role, brackets, their job ads in the tiny URL, here's my CV, and then that way when they accept the message, they've got 2 clickable buttons to go, hey, there's a job ad, there's a CV, and they're interested. That will definitely make you stand out. So yeah, I would use the connection notes. It does take time, but I mean, it's definitely worth it. What else? Free spell checking tool again, Grammarly. Like it's a Chrome extension, so it'll be like on your internet, and like everyone uses Chrome, right? No one uses Internet Explorer. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, like Bill Gates has conquered everything apart from that. That sucks. Yeah, Chrome's the way to go. What else? Okay, so connecting with people. Once you've connected with them, I'd probably track it on like an Excel spreadsheet if I was going for a job. What I would do personally is I'd have like a column for the adverts that I've applied to on all the different places that we talked about earlier. I'd have a column for who the decision makers are that I predict at that company. I'd have a column to say like tick, I've sent them a connection request. I'd have a column to say that they've accepted. I'd have a column to say that I've sent them a first message. I'd have a column to say that I sent them a second message. Like after like 3, if they're not replying, then you're being a little bit creepy. But like 2 or 3 messages, like that's fine. Like you can pester somebody like once a week. So I'd send the first message, like keep it basic, like hey, saw that you're advertising for this role. I think I'd be a great fit. Here's my CV. Let me know if we can have a chat. And then I'd put a calendar reminder, probably like a week later, a couple of days later. Just put it in your calendar, message Joe Blogs again on LinkedIn or on email, whatever you did. Sometimes they'll put their email on their LinkedIn page. Sometimes they'll put their phone number, and it's like, yeah, you can just give them a call. Like, I know it sounds scary, but just call them and just be like, hey, saw that you're advertising this role. Here's my, I'd love to send you a CV. What's the best email address to send it to? Like, in the old days, when I say the old days, like 5-10 years ago, that was like the normal way to apply for jobs. So now everyone's like scared and they hide behind a keyboard. But just like calling people, I wouldn't call the office line just because after COVID, like so many companies don't even have them, or it's like a maze to get to the right person. So I just try and get their phone number. A lot of times, if they're senior at the company, they'll have a personal website where they'll do like speaking, or they'll write a book or something. If you go to their contact page, oftentimes they've got that number listed. I mean, well, what is the worst that could happen? They could tell you to go away, but then you're in exactly the same situation as you were to begin with before you'd even applied for the job. So like, is it worth trying? So I'd have a column for their email if you can find it, a column for their phone number. There is a lot of software out there where you can put in their LinkedIn page and it will tell you the email that they signed up with. I'd recommend using like Hunter is a good one. I mean, there's so many, but most of the time you only get like 5 free lookups a month, or like 5 or 10. But if you just use all of them, then you can just get it all for free, or you can just sign up. It's not that expensive usually. What else? Yeah, so after you've followed up the first time, the first follow-up would just be like, hey, just wanted to check if you've received my message. Would love to have a chat. Maybe you can create a bit of urgency, a bit of scarcity. Like humans, we like rare, like hard to get things, like FOMO. So it's like you can send a message like, hey, just wanted to circle back. I've got a few other final interviews happening this week, but would love to have a quick chat with you before I'm gone. Let me know if we can have a call. And then they're like, oh shit, this person's gonna go. I've got to have a chat with them. It's like our monkey brains like diamonds because they're rare and shiny. If you position yourself as a diamond, not as some like desperate candidate, like, hey, I'll work for free, please help me. Like they're not going to be interested in that, right? They're going to be turned off. So make yourself look rare and important and scarce, not like you would just accept anything. And then the third follow-up, you could be creative. So you could send a little video. You could send a little selfie video. Hey, just wanted to, and you could just be a repeat of the message. Hey, just wanted to circle back. Could we have a chat? If I receive a video on LinkedIn in my messages of just somebody smiling, and I'm gonna play it. I'm like, what is this? I mean, who is this person? And if it's a 30-second elevator pitch of you talking about how you'd be a great fit for the role, hey, I saw that you're looking for X, Y, and Z. I've got this company, this company, and I think I don't have that, but I'm learning that in my free time right now. Here's a link to a blog where I'm sharing my progress on that. Could we have a chat about the role? I'm going to be like, wow, this person switched on. So using LinkedIn is great because when you send a CV, you're one of 100 that have applied to a job. 99% of those people don't then follow up on LinkedIn once a week with customized personal outreach. That will separate you from the masses. Okay. Anyone using Twitter for applying for jobs? No. Okay, this is like the holy grail, like secret technique which you should do. Right, think of yourself as like an octopus. Okay. Don't just try and get them on the job ads where you're applying. Try and get them on email, try and get them on LinkedIn, try and get them on Twitter. The reason why companies spend millions on marketing, like if you go anywhere, you see Coca-Cola's logo. Like, do you really think Coca-Cola needs to advertise? Like, no, I mean, they've got us, we all drink it. But if you're seeing the Coke logo over and over again, it's making you think of it. So when you think, I'm thirsty, you think, have a Coke, right? Same with Apple, same with Disney, same with anyone, right? If you associate your brand, your name, with what you do, you want them to think of that job and then think of you. And the way to do that is to be everywhere, all the time, on an ongoing basis. Just hound them in a very professional, non-stalker way. Okay, you can be a stalker. I mean that will work as well, but you'll turn a few people off. But I mean, sometimes to make an omelette, you've got to crack a few eggs, don't you? That's the expression. So, in terms of Twitter, oftentimes if you go to their LinkedIn page, you click contact info, it will have their Twitter right there. If not, just go onto the platform and search for their name. If it's a personal Twitter, if it's like private, if it's like them posting pictures of their kids, I just leave it alone. Like I would go there. But a lot of the time, if they're a business leader, they've got a personal brand on there. Okay. If you sign up to Twitter, you pay Elon his £8 a month or whatever it is. You get the fancy blue tick. You put your profile picture on there. You can actually copy and paste the LinkedIn picture with the green banner onto your Twitter, and it will have the green banner on there as well. You put like a little, copy your tagline from LinkedIn into your Twitter bio, and then just start posting cool content. Whatever you're posting about your search, you just post on that on there as well. And then if you follow them, if you start liking, their business updates, if they post the job ad on Twitter, like, hey, we're applying for this role, nobody replies to those. It's like spam. But if you jump in there and like, hey, I've sent my CV, would love to have a chat, they're going to be like, oh, wow, this person's everywhere. They won't leave me alone. I might as well have a chat with them. So Twitter's great because it separates you from the people that are just doing CVs and then those people that are going the extra mile with LinkedIn. You're like going like the extra mile. Like, it's like, wow. I'd probably stay away from like Facebook, probably Instagram. If they've got a professional Instagram, that's fine, but most people don't. I'd stay away from, most people don't have a YouTube page, but like Facebook's a bit too personal, Instagram usually, but Twitter's on that grey area. Just check if it's like a professional account first, and then add that to your Excel on the columns, and then LinkedIn is purely business, right? So, it's meant to be purely business, but people love posting pictures of them with their dog on the weekend, which is cool anyway. That's what it's become. So I'd stick to those platforms and just be on them all the time, always. Okay. I think that's LinkedIn and Twitter to an extent. Any questions on social media, I suppose? Okay, cool. All right. Have a think, and we'll at the end go back to that if you've got any questions. All right. Awesome. Okay, interviews. Who's been going to interviews? Who's had interviews recently? Okay, a couple of people, but some people are not landing interviews yet. Okay, that's fine. Hopefully, what I've described so far will get you those interviews, because I can't really... during the interview, it's about how to get the job, right? But how to get the interview is about the CV, it's about the LinkedIn, it's about the social media. So apply those steps to get to this step. And then when we're on this step, here's some basic things that you can do. So, like most people do 5 minutes of research on the ad and the description before the interview. And they're like panicked. They're like, just before the interview starts, like, okay, what does this company do? Like, who is the hiring manager? They have a quick look on the website. Sometimes they don't even do that. It blows me away. I've got software developers with 20 years experience going for an interview, and the hiring manager's like, so what do you know about us? Tell us about what you know about the business. And they're like, are you a bank? Like they don't even know, right? So you have to do some research, and you look at the website, look at the hiring managers on LinkedIn, go onto Glassdoor, that will tell you like reviews about the company. Go onto Google, type in the company, click on news. That way it's like Google News, so it's aggregated. You don't have to like go to each news source. If they're a big company and they have like some like major news about acquiring a business, that's like a cool thing to reference in the interview. If it's some like small thing that the hiring manager probably isn't aware of, like if you're like applying for a job at Tesco and there's like some news story about some woman in Sunderland who sued them because a sandwich was like too cold or something, then like that's like the sort of news that like it's irrelevant. But if it's a startup or a small company and there's like some news on Google News, that's probably like some pretty big thing. So that's definitely something that I'd reference during the process. Okay, so read the advert, read the description, look at the hiring managers on LinkedIn and on Google, and look at the company's blog for news as well. So if you go to the company's website, click on their insights, their blog or whatever, if there's some amazing thing that you can reference in the interview, it shows that you care, that you've taken your time, that you've done your research, etc. Okay, in terms of timings with interviews, I'd probably recommend, if it's in person, getting there like 5 minutes early. If you arrive an hour early, just go for a walk outside for a bit. Like, don't go in an hour early. It looks like you're desperate, and it also looks like you're not punctual in. I mean, it's better than being late, but it's still quite inconvenient if they're doing other interviews, if they're in meetings, and if you're suddenly like waiting in the lobby, like just sitting there, just watching everything that's happening. Just go for a walk, get in 5 minutes early. If it's on video calls, oftentimes like Zoom and Teams and stuff, some people are not very good at creating the links to these. So if you click it an hour early, sometimes they'll be using the same link, and you'll join like somebody else's interview. This happens all the time, and they're like, "Hey," and like the interview was great, Alfie, but in the middle of it, a random person joined and they left. It's like, who was that? I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. That was Patrick. He always does this. Like so just like, or even worse, clients will create these hiring companies. Sorry, my recruitment hat on there. They'll create these links to join interviews. You'll join it, and then you'll leave it because you're testing it works, and then that link doesn't work anymore. And then when you go to join the interview later, it's like, this meeting has expired. And you're like, oh shit, what do I do now? And you call the recruiter, and they're in a meeting, and then you miss the interview. And it's like, what? Like, so test your webcams good, test video, do it on like the camera app on the laptop or the phone. They've always got that. You don't, or create your own. If it's on Zoom, you want to make sure Zoom's working. Create your own Zoom link and go into that and test it. Don't go into that Zoom link until it's like 5 minutes before the interview. Okay. What else? I'd probably, this is like a difficult one to give advice on, but in terms of dress code, I'd say smart casual is like the 2023 thing to do. Like, how many people are rocking a suit and tie nowadays for interviews? It's like, it probably would do you more harm than good, to be honest. With that said, have a look at them on like LinkedIn and like the company website. If it's like some investment bank, like some private equity family office, maybe put I'd even stay away from a tie, to be honest on that. Like it's just, obviously it's a general statement, but I just like a t-shirt and a jacket or like a shirt. I know it's like basic advice to be given, but believe me, so many people show up to interviews and they've got like a t-shirt on with like, I don't know, just like some random TV show, like Big Bang Theory thing, and they're interviewing for like a hedge fund or something. It's I know in tech everyone's like super like relaxed about this sort of thing, and that's fine. Like once you get the job, you can probably wear the sandals in the office. That's cool. But when you're going for the interview and they're like suited and booted, and you're rocking in with like like sweatpants on, it's just like, it's a basic thing, but so many people don't do it. So yeah. If it's on video, which most interviews are nowadays, like get the basics right. So like make sure you've got good Wi-Fi. If not, there's pay for better Wi-Fi. I don't really know what the answer is there. Make sure you have a good camera. So many webcams are pretty like shitty. Like you get the camera. Like, most webcams, like laptops, they don't care about building a good webcam. It's not like a big feature of the laptop. So don't be afraid to go out and spend 50 quid on like a good webcam that you clip on the front. I've got this like streamers webcam. I don't make any like Twitch content or anything like that, but I've got the one that all those people use, and it's great. It's like, it follows me around. I move and it just like, it follows me. It's like I've got like a person holding a camera for me when I'm doing them. Super HD. Have a good mic. On Amazon you can buy like one of those like podcaster mics for like 30 quid, and I mean it's like 10 times better than the webcam microphone. Which is obvious. Like you've got this like huge mic with like a muffle, like to get your words sounding good. Instead, if you've got like a tiny little pinhole on your laptop and that's like picking up the audio, it's like night and day. It's so much better. If you're presenting yourself on video and you've got great lighting, so lighting is always good from the front. If you're sitting and there's a window behind you, you're going to be really, really dark on the video. There's been so much research done into this, where it shows, I think it was like a dating program, where like women were watching videos of guys like talking, and they had the same guy, sitting there talking, telling them about themselves of like a dating agency, and he said exactly the same thing. He said it in exactly the same tonality. He said it for exactly the same amount of time, but on one of the videos, he had the light in front of him, so all nice and bright. On the other video, he had the light behind him. And the stats were like, would you date this guy? And like on the good lighting, it was like, yeah, I would. On the bad lighting, it was like, hell no, like keep him away from me. He's a creep, right? So have good lighting. It's like so obvious, but often so overlooked. I know it's super cringe, but get one of those like Ring TikTok selfie lights, like the little circle ones, like a tenner on Amazon. Stick it behind your webcam if you don't have a bright window. And that works really well. So if you're interviewing two candidates and one of them has got like blurry video, choppy Wi-Fi, you can hear their like annoying kids screaming in the background, right? Like I got a baby at the moment. I know what it's like. But you always judge people with kids until you actually have kids. And you're like, oh shit, I get it now, I get it. But if you figure all that stuff out, have good lighting, have a great mic, have good, HD video, that is so much better than watching like something that's been filmed with a potato or something. It just looks so much cooler. All right. Professional background is obvious. Don't have your bed behind you with your pajamas rolled up in a ball. Everyone does that. I don't know why. You can actually just make fake backgrounds on Zoom. You can go in put a nice snazzy bookshelf behind you. They're not always that great. If you've got a green screen, they work really well. Otherwise, they're a bit weird. Like you'll move too quickly, and half your head will vanish. So either get a green screen or just position it where you've got some nice books behind you or a fireplace or something. Don't have it where you've got a bunch of laundry in the background. It just looks pretty. Yeah. Not a big thing, but. I mean, these are all little things, right? But the little things become the big thing. Quiet room, obviously. That's super hard. I had a candidate recently who, they're a super switched on guy, so props to him for doing this, but he was about to start an interview, and then instantly, his building company starts doing construction, right outside of his property, and he was panicking. He quickly Googled, what to do, and there was some software from OpenAI, I think it was some noise cancelling thing. He downloaded it, quickly installed the plugin, and then when he spoke, he just drowned everything else out, which is such a smart thing to do. But if you can do stuff like that, then it will elevate the video game instantly. Okay, so in terms of the actual contents of the interview, you want to practice the most common questions that you're going to get. People are going to ask you, "Hey, Alfie, tell me about yourself." Tell me about this position. Why are you looking for a new job? What else? What else do you always get? Why do you want to work here? What do you know about us? They're going to ask these questions, and that's going to be half of the interview. For every interview. So just practice. Just get 30-second answers for each of them. Write them down. Script them. Delete stuff. How can I make that better? Rehearse them. Rehearse them to your partners, to your friends. Film yourself doing it, watch it back, how could it be better? Be a bit robotic with it, but the practice makes perfect. The more that you do it, the better you'll get. If you haven't thought about any of this, and they go, tell me about yourself, you're like a deer in headlights, you don't know what to say. And then you've got somebody else who's polished, they're slick, they're professional, it's here's what I do, I've got 5 years with this, 7 years with that, I want to work here for these 3 reasons. It's going to be so much better, right? So, an obvious thing to do, practice the most common interview questions, rehearse them, prep them, get them going good. Ask intelligent questions. You're always going to get them saying, hey, you got any questions for us? What would you like to know about us? It's always going to happen. So if it's always going to happen, make sure you've got 3 to 5 good questions prepared. And when I say good questions, make them intelligent. The smarter, the better. So, but I noticed that you were recently acquired 8 months ago by this company. Has that changed the culture much? What impact has that had on your role? How have you found that transition? I used to work at a company and they were acquired. Well, it was interesting for these 2 reasons. How did you find it? Wow, that's a great question. But even if you're not going to do that level of research, questions like, tell me about the projects, tell me about the tech, tell me about the roadmap, how can I get promoted? What are the progression opportunities? What do you like about working there? What do you not like about working there? That's a good one. It shows that you're not desperate. If you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing about the job, what would it be? That's a great question. It gets them thinking. Okay. So I definitely recommend asking solid, intelligent questions to the point where you've run out of time and you're going over on time and they're enjoying it. The number one thing that people like to speak about is themselves. So if you're asking them questions about them, and I saw on LinkedIn that you play football. I love football. I used to play all the time. What team do you support? I know that's a little bit personal, and I'd probably save that type of question to the end if you've got all the professional stuff out the way and you've got like a good rapport going on and a good conversation. I wouldn't make that like your opening question, like for the interview, like, hey, what team do you support? Like, that could go really, really badly as well if you've got opposites. But yeah, I'd reference their background, I'd reference what research you've done, and I'd tie that into intelligent questions to ask during the interview. Basic stuff, but like, stay positive, obviously. Like, nobody likes a complainer. If you got fired from a company or you didn't like your boss, don't spend half the interview complaining about it. Just explain it and focus on the good stuff. I don't want to sound all motivational here, but like, don't give up. Like, you're going to have to apply for a lot of jobs sometimes to get, it's a numbers game. If you look at like an upside down funnel, right? If you apply for this many roles, you'll get this many, email exchanges. You'll get that many first interviews, that many second interviews, that many finals, that many offers, that many jobs. You need to put in the stuff to get the little drips that come out of it. And if you don't put enough quantity in, it's quantity and quality, but you've got to do both in order to get the results, right? I'd say quality is more important, but in order to get to quality, you need to do quantity, because you need to do and learn and fail and get feedback and figure out what's going wrong, and then that's how you get the good stuff, right? Ask them for feedback if you don't get the job. Most of the time they're willing to give you something. Sometimes they'll just be busy and they'll ignore you. But if you can get some good feedback about why you didn't get the position, next time that you interview, you'll be better, because you'll not make that same mistake again, and that will help you next time. Follow-up is super critical. This is like sales start, and that's basically what you're doing when you're interviewing. You're selling yourself. You're being a salesperson, right? I know the salesperson term is like a bad rep around it, but that is what you're doing. You're selling the company on why you should work there. So the secret to sales is follow-up. It's about consistently going after them and reminding them about why they should say yes to the decision. And a really simple follow-up technique is just to thank them for their time. So most people after the interview, they finish the interview and they leave it there. But after the interview, if you drop them an email or a LinkedIn message and go, hey, thanks for your time, really, really good to meet you. You mentioned this point during the interview. I thought that was really, really useful. I've actually just written a blog about that. You mentioned this during the interview. Here's how I think I could have expanded on that a little bit more. Would love to continue the conversation. Let me know what the next steps are. It just shows that you care if you're willing to go the extra mile with follow-up. So that's really, really useful. So thanking them for their time and then setting weekly reminders to follow up. Even if you don't get the job, follow up once a month. If they're hired for that position once, maybe they'll hire for it again. Maybe that person will join and they won't work out. Maybe they'll accept the offer and then they'll bail at the last minute because they've got another offer. If you continuously follow up, hey, have you got any more opportunities? Just wanted to check in. How are you doing? That will be a great way to stand out and make you front of mind. So when they think drink, they think Coca-Cola. When they think front-end developer, they think you. Okay? Cool. Any questions on interviews? Yes?
Two tricky questions from recruiters.
Okay.
I often hear.
Yeah.
What is your salary on your last job, or
Yeah.
current job, and do you have a lot of interviews planned?
Okay, so, yeah, we always ask those questions, don't we? Okay. So most recruiters will ask about your current salary and or your last salary, and the reason they're doing it is they're not trying to catch you out or anything. It's just they've got a band that they've got to work with. So if they're a recruiter within a company, they don't decide on that position's pay. Their boss's boss has gone, hey, here's the range. Here's what you can pay. If they want to move that, they've got to get an approval and then an approval and approval. So they've got a range. And if you're if you're making 80 grand, the equivalent of 80 grand in your last role, and this job's paying 50, then if you say 80, they don't want to waste their time. They don't want to interview you if you're here and you're there. So a good way to, then if you're an external recruiter working for an agency, it's basically the same thing. The client's given you a budget and you've got to work within those parameters. So you want to know what they were earning so you know what to put them forward at, which is like 5 to 10k more than what they were earning in their last role. Most people don't want to go backwards. Obviously, if you don't have a job and you're looking for a role and you are applying here and there and everywhere, you will be very flexible with that. One thing I would not recommend doing is just saying, I'm open, just let me know what they're, I'll take anything, I'll accept the market rate, okay? It doesn't sound good, okay? I know it might be hard to hear that, but it just doesn't. A better way to answer the question would be, hey, what salary were you on? What are you looking at? Well, I was in Ukraine, so it's a different conversion rate, it's a different, market. What's this role paying? Okay, it's paying between 70 to 85. Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. Could they do 90? Oh, no, it's 85 max. Okay, that's fine. We could look at 70 to 85. That's okay. If you answer their question with a question, it's like such a basic sales technique, but it works, and there's a reason why everybody does it because it works. Okay, so that's salaries. Interviews, I would probably answer the question with a firm yes, if I'm being honest. Now, if you and I'm not telling you to make stuff up. If you want to just be super honest and say, no, I don't have any other interviews. But I'd love to interview for this one. That's fine. But if you're trying to create scarcity in yourself and show that you're in demand, a better way to answer that question would be, yeah, I've got a lot of final interviews happening, but it sounds like a really good role, so I would love to have a chat about this position. They're going to put you to the front of the pile. Or when they're sending your CV to the client, they're going to go, hey, this person's at final stage elsewhere. Are you interested in having a chat before they're gone? It's fear of missing out. It's scarcity, and it works. Right? Our monkey brains, we're scared if something's in demand. It's like Apple just released their new VR headset, right? It's like $3.5 grand, which makes me want it even more, because it's like I'm not going to afford that. That's crazy for a headset. But when it drops down to like £1,500 next year, when they did the big release, everybody's going to jump on it because it's gone from really in demand to now it's available. So supply and demand. One reason why recruiters will often ask you about interviews is external recruiters. Is they're trying to be a little bit sneaky and they're trying to get leads for themselves. Okay, so if they go, oh cool, you got other interviews. Where are you interviewing at? Just politely say, oh look, I'd rather not say if that's okay. Or the other recruiters told me not to tell anyone, and they'll go, okay, that's fine. They're not going to push you on it. Okay, some might, but just be firm. Sorry, I'm not interested. The reason why they want to know is because if a company X is hiring also for somebody like you, and they're open to using agencies, and then if you've got, as a recruiter, other candidates that are similar to you they're interviewing, or they may have people more qualified, and they know that company's hiring, then boom, they can then send candidates to that job to try and get a deal. You've just hurt your chances of getting a job because you've just created more competition. And you don't benefit in any way. So I'd say, I've got other interviews happening, and then if they push you where we're at, I'd rather not say, but it's not at the company that you've told me about. If you tell me about any opportunities, I will tell you if I'm interviewing there. And in this case, I'm not, so let's have a chat. Okay. Interviews? Anyone else? That was like the same time, so go for it.
I have a question about LinkedIn.
Okay.
Green sticker on the photo.
Yeah.
I have a job now, and
Yeah.
I don't add my colleagues to LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I don't give to this job link to the LinkedIn. Hopefully they don't know, because
Okay.
I want to switch in
Yeah,
IT.
okay, got you.
And I all my in LinkedIn about IT, and I add certification. If it's correct to add the sticker if I have job, and what can think HR manager for my
it's a tricky one. You can make it so people in your current organisation can't see it. I think there is. There is a way in the settings. I believe there is a way. don't quote me religiously on that and get caught. Google, double check, please. I think there is a way to do it. With that said, if people are looking at your LinkedIn page and they're not signed into their accounts, they might still see it. Or on LinkedIn, people, if you're working at a big company, I'm not sure if you are, but if you are, sometimes people will have variations of that business on LinkedIn. So I work at, Alpha, or I work at Alpha Technology, and if they're working for a different company, which is not the same as yours, they'll still be able to see it. So I just be careful if I'm doing that, if I'm you. You could always just plead ignorance and say, I've got a green banner on my LinkedIn, do I? I must have had that from before when I was looking for a job. Thank you so much for telling me. I really appreciate that. And then you can just remove it. Look, it's up to you. I obviously can't tell you what to do in that situation, but I think there are ways around the problem that you're thinking of. Okay. Over here?
Additionally to your question,
Yep.
would it work to create another LinkedIn account?
Oh, I probably wouldn't do that, because you've got your connections, right? Or your network. If you're building up the connections, and it's kind of weird if like multiple pages. It kind of looks like you're a bot or something, like you're a fake account. No, I just stick to one personally.